Welcome back, everyone. Get your cup of chamomile tea and cozy up because I'm once again inviting you to explore the private recesses of my unconscious and help me interpret my dreams. So last night I had a dream, and it was a different dream than I usually have because I wasn't really in it. It was more like I was just watching this scene. Usually, when I dream, it's very clear that I am the main character. I'm seeing, my ego represented, and I have blonde hair in my dream, always, just like I do in waking life. But this time, I just wasn't in the dream. So, here it is. There was a young woman with dark, long hair. She was really pretty. She had, she seemed really stylish. She had like bangles on, and her hair was like maybe had a cool scarf kind of wrapped around like a headband on her head. And she was in sort of like a studio apartment, but it didn't have any windows. And so, as I said, usually I can identify myself in the dream, and I always have blonde hair as I do in waking life, but this time it was just my consciousness kind of watching. Although, also, in a way, I identified myself as this woman. So, take that as you will. I'll just analyze it after finishing it. So this woman was talking to someone as if on the phone, but there wasn't a phone. She was just standing at a table looking down at some pictures, I think like a menu, and talking. There was a laptop some distance from her, sitting on like a couch or something, and that's where a guy through a video later appeared, but the voice responding to her didn't seem to be coming from the laptop. So anyway, the person, quote unquote, on the phone was telling her that since it was after 6 p.m., they didn't charge money, but they would still deliver her pizza. And she said, okay, kind of in this flirtatious and confident laugh, and then said, well, be prepared because I'm going to order a lot. And then she ordered 8 slices, each a different kind. So it seems like the pizza guy on the phone and the woman were becoming friendly because they maybe started chatting about other things. And this is when the laptop showed an image of the guy. He was wearing a red sweater and standing in the hallway of his house. He was telling the woman that he and his roommate had just bought a black cat together. And the woman got upset with this and said, so that's what you do after you figure out patriarchy? And then she goes to a chair and slumps down, putting her head on the armrest, and it seems that she had her mascara running down her face and that she had called and was now talking to like 911 or like, I don't know, like an ambulance, saying, I'm pregnant and I don't have a reason to live. Then one could hear the alarm of an ambulance approaching, and it seems like she knew that they would come to her after they heard her say that. So that is the dream, and it's so weird. I've only actually had one other dream where someone with like brown hair was in my dream, or dark hair, and it felt like it was me, but not me. So I think that basically I just had a dream of my shadow self. It's like a projection of my unconscious self or shadow. The fact that the woman had dark hair when I usually dream about myself with blonde hair, and I know that like I am in the body, and the consciousness that is in the body is mine. So I think that because there was some distance, and it was almost like I was watching a TV show, but there was no me as well, like watching. Um, but yet I was. So it's maybe an aspect of my psyche that I don't typically identify with, but that still holds importance. So I'm just fascinated by this. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever had a dream where you weren't in it, but you also kind of were. Just represented in just a visually different way. So, again, the shadow contains parts of ourselves that are hidden or oppressed. So, I think the dream is an exploration of this unconscious aspect of me. So, the woman's flirtatious confidence, but yet also emotional vulnerability that she ends up showing, I feel like could indicate parts of myself that I'm not fully conscious of, but my unconscious wants me to integrate. She definitely embodies some kind of duality, someone who appears really confident on the outside, but is dealing with some deep internal conflict. So I think it's also important that the studio apartment doesn't have windows. Usually, spaces that are, living spaces represent the psyche itself. And a studio apartment with no windows might suggest a lack of clarity and understanding. Maybe it's showing that I don't completely have a full insight to this. I've had dreams definitely before where I was in an apartment and like the whole wall was a window. So maybe that indicates, in that sense, an issue that I am partially conscious of. So it could also indicate, an apartment with no windows could also indicate like a feeling of being trapped in one's own mind or emotional state. So the phone conversation I think is really interesting. I don't know if there's an importance that the woman wasn't on the phone. I often dream if I have dreamt of being on the phone before, or having a phone, like a cell phone in my hand, or dialing on like one of the like old school kind of phones. But I don't know, it might mean that I have an ease of talking to people, or maybe I'm talking to myself, really, even though it's not represented as talking to myself, or the complete opposite, that when I'm trying to connect with others, like I feel disconnected. So I don't know. Like, I'm not really sure if that's like a positive symbol or a negative symbol in a sense. I think it's interesting that there is like a playful interaction between the pizza guy and the woman. It might indicate for a longing for companionship or social interaction, but in places and with people that aren't necessarily available, like, the the person who's like taking your pizza order isn't really like, that's not like a traditional way to meet a friend. And then also the conversation does take like a darker turn. I think pizza could be a symbol of something, and also the number 8 could be a symbol of something. Each slice might be a different aspect of the self that I have a desire to explore. And so when she says, be prepared, I'm going to order a lot, maybe I'm in a place in my spiritual or psychic development where, there are these different aspects, or maybe versions of myself, or I don't know, something. I think the number 8 is often associated with balance and also infinity, and maybe even cycles in Jungian symbolism. So maybe this is like an exploration of myself for personal growth. Pizza, I don't know, maybe like to me, it's a food of indulgence. So, and ordering 8 slices just for herself, maybe the desire to explore various aspects of myself right now feels like an indulgence. I don't know. I think it's interesting that the man had a red sweater on and also mentioned a black cat. So red can often indicate passion, life force, energy, but it can also, I think, indicate danger or intense emotion. And because he casually mentions this black cat, but she gets upset, and looking at a black cat is maybe like a symbol of mystery and intuition and the unknown. Her response to that may mean that there's some sort of resistance or fear of mystery or my own intuition, maybe. What she says to the pizza guy is so wild to me. So that's what you do after you figure out patriarchy. I have no idea. Like, I can't see that relating to anything in my life necessarily. Like, I don't even like use the word patriarchy anymore. Like, I definitely spent a lot of my graduate school life in like women's studies where we did talk about it, but it just, I don't know, it's not my focus really anymore. I'm more like concerned about like inner work and unity consciousness. And so I just, yeah, I don't know. But it would seem that the woman, at least, is grappling with deep-seated feelings about gender roles and maybe power dynamics and her own place in these structures. So I don't know, even though my conscious self doesn't feel like gender roles or power dynamics are an issue, maybe that's something I have to explore. I don't know. And then there's this stark emotional shift that happens, right? So this woman who is previously confident and playful is suddenly overwhelmed with kind of a despair. She slumps down in the chair. Her mascara is running down her face, so maybe she's like crying. So she's definitely dealing with some conflicting feelings, which means I'm dealing with conflicting feelings. On the surface, I have a desire for connection and play, but deeper down, maybe there are feelings of loneliness, isolation, or confusion about connecting with others. In Jungian terms, I think that pregnancy can symbolize the emergence of something new, like a new idea or potential, or even like aspect of the self that is available for development. But her statement is a statement of hopelessness. So maybe there's always a fear. And I did have another dream, which for various reasons I'm not going to make a video about, but there was definitely it was centered around a baby, an abandoned baby that I found in a drawer and felt and looked neglected for a long time, and I felt like overwhelmed. I was trying to like take care of it and clean it and like, I don't know, attend to it. But I was feeling a bit at a loss because I didn't have anyone to help me do this. So I think that so this dream kind of reminds me of that dream, because there's this idea of a pregnancy or a baby. So, a new aspect that's coming, that's emerging, that I can look at, which I think is a really positive instance of healing, right? Because as we heal, there are more parts of us that emerge that we, can work on and heal. So definitely, her call to 911 and the ambulance approach and her kind of like, I recognized that she recognized that it was a cry for help. So basically, it's an acknowledgement that there is a part of me that's in distress and needs care or attention, that the psyche is calling for intervention and healing. So there is some hope or expectation, but she kind of like almost like I feel like has to act dramatically to get help. Because she was just talking to this pizza guy and they were chatting. So she could have shared with him, anything, but instead she I don't know, was became dramatic and called 911. So, a sense of alarm. So yeah, so that's it. I think that it's just sort of a wild dream. And I'm so fascinated by dreams because I feel like once you decide that, okay, I'm going to start listening to them, I'm going to start remembering them, I'm writing them down in a journal. And you were also working on yourself, like in therapy. I have started back up. I've had, I think, 2 sessions, or maybe, yeah, I think I've had 2 sessions. So therapy can be very expensive, but I'm trying to budget for 1 session a month. And I think it's better than nothing. So I think that if you're also in therapy or reading self-help books or just trying to reflect and work on yourself, then it's interesting because then you can look at your dreams and see if pattern, usually if you haven't healed something, you will have repeated patterns and repeated dreams. It'll keep showing up in your dreams until you work on it and figure it out. So, and then having all these symbols of pregnancy or babies can really be, I think, there are, I don't know all of them, right, or any of them, but I think that there are probably other symbols of healing that indicates, I don't think that your dreams really focus too much on hey, good job, you're a great person. I think it mainly focuses on what you need to work on. But when there is a new part of our self that is being healed or is asking to be healed, then that in itself is kind of a positive sign, but still something that we have to work on, if that makes sense. So you can kind of look for the progression in your dreams. Yeah, and then also bring them to your therapist and say, hey, this is apparently something I need to work on. I apparently need to work on this stylish yet emotionally dramatic shadow aspect of myself. All right. So please put in the comments below if you have any interpretations of anything in my dream, and share your dreams as well, because I think that they're fun to talk about.